All right, hey guys, this is Josh from ProGalien giving you another review on the new chapter approved book that's going to be released here. And in this video, we're going to talk about the Planetary Strike rules, the Stronghold Assault rules, the new linear campaign rules, Fortifications, the Adeptus Soroitas, Deathwatch, and Space Wolves. So looking to see all those new cool updates in this book. If you're looking for updates on the other items within this book, feel free to check out our other videos in the playlist below. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So like I said, first we're going to talk about the Planetary Strike. We'll kind of skip past all the apocalyptic war stuff and go right into the narrative play rules. So on page 32, that's where we begin Planet Strike. So in this, they didn't really do any updates to the Planet Strike abilities. The Firestorm, Planetary Assault remain the same. However, what's cool is that they gave us 5 new missions to play with Planet Strike. I'm really looking forward to playing these. As well as giving us a layout for how the army should be built. And so that includes items like the detachments as well as warlord traits. So looking through here, not too much updates on this page, obviously listing out the missions, but the real cool part here is the warlord traits and detachments. So the warlord traits are obviously very specific to defender and attacker. So there's 3 warlord traits for each. 3 for attacker, 3 for a defender. And for the defender, just throwing out a couple examples here, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly units within 6 inches of your warlord if targeting an attacking unit that arrived as reinforcements this turn. Or you can just simply get 1 bonus command point that can be spent on a Planet Strike stratagem. So pretty awesome stuff. A couple items to note for the attacker warlord traits if you decide to use this table. So master of timing, you can reroll 1 failed reserve roll. Very fluffy, I like it. Number 3 here, planetary attacker, you have 1 bonus command point. Again, trying to even out the defender and attacker warlord traits here. What I think is really awesome too is that they included new detachments to be used with these narrative games. So looking into the attacker detachment, minimum requirements here are 2 HQs, 3 elites, and 3 fast attacks. Again, makes perfect sense. You're getting into a planet. You're trying to strike it. You got to move fast. You want your elite units to go in first. Awesome stuff. For the defender, same type of thing, right? You need 2 HQs, 3 troops as a minimum, as well as 3 heavy support. So again, you're looking to defend off these attackers. You want to bust them out, make sure that they don't get in there. So pretty cool stuff, definitely looking to try those out. For stratagems, they actually added 5 new stratagems for each the attacker and the defender. So things like heavy duty drop. So use this stratagem, and this is for the attacker by the way, use this stratagem during deployment, select one of your units. That unit starts the game in orbit, even if it is not an infantry unit or a unit that has a fly keyword, which is pretty awesome, right? If the unit is a transport, units can start the battle embarked inside as normal. So deep striking transports, anybody? Pretty cool, right? Pulling out a couple for the defender. So foxholes, for example, use this stratagem when one of your infantry units is hit by a firestorm attack, half the number of mortal wounds suffered by the unit. So those dice that the attacker places in order to put some orbital bombardments on it, you can half the number of mortal wounds. Pretty awesome stuff. Additionally, with this new book, we have 5 new missions we can play. So they kept Planetfall. Now we have Desperate Assault, Seize and Destroy, Stranglehold, Forlorn Hope, and Planet Quake. I'm not going to go through each one of these in detail, but just kind of give you an example here. Forlorn Hope is a new one that they added. So within this one, you have essentially a banner bearer, right, for the attacker. What you're trying to do is place your banner onto a building, for example, to show that you've captured that entire, planet, right? So essentially, I'll just read out the rule for plant the banner here. If at the end of any turn the attacker controls an objective marker and the banner bearer is within 3 inches of the center of that objective marker, if it is within a building, they need to be only at 3 inches of that within the building. They can plant the banner. If the banner bearer is slain while the banner is planted, it still counts as being planted until it is picked up by another infantry unit as described above. So if it is picked up by a model from the attacker's army, it remains planted. If it is picked up by a model by the defender's army, it is cast down. So it's almost like a little bit of like a capture the flag type of deal, but obviously the attacker begins with the banner. So pretty cool stuff. Victory conditions is around the banner. At the end of the battle, the attacker wins if the banner is planted, and the defender wins if the banner is being carried by a model from their army. So pretty cool stuff. I really like these new missions here. Additionally, we have actual deployments for Planetary Strike, right? Before it was just kind of like, all right, you have all these fortifications, set them up how you want, go ahead and play a Planetary Strike game. So have a couple of new deployments here. They gave the all-around defense as an example within the big rule book, but things like Central Stronghold, where you have almost a bastion in the middle and a couple of bunkers on either side, fortified flank, kill zone, spread out defense, and sacrificial outpost. So you can check all these out when you get the book. Pretty awesome stuff though. Next, like I said, we're going to talk about Stronghold Assault in this video. So a couple things about Stronghold Assault, kind of following that same lines as what was done with Planetary Strike. They've added 5 new missions. They've added warlord traits and detachments. They've kept the big guns never tire and demolitions. A couple things that they added though was hold at all costs. So the defender adds 1 to the leadership characteristics of their units whilst they're within 6 inches of a fortification from their army. Pretty cool if you're a low leadership army. And defender, deadly defenses, excuse me. The defender can add 1 to hit rolls made for buildings in the army in the shooting phase. Makes perfect sense. You're shooting at buildings, pretty easy to hit. Okay, so jumping over here, like I said, they've added detachments as well as warlord traits, just like they did for, the Planetary Strike narrative missions. So a couple of examples here. Siegebreaker. You can reroll failed charge rolls for friendly units that are within 6 inches of your warlord when they declare a charge against a building. Pretty cool, right? Next up, Fortress Commander. So this is for the defender versus the attacker, the one we just explained. So if your warlord is embarked within a building, roll a dice each time that building loses a wound. On a 6+, the building does not lose a wound. So feel no pain for buildings. Pretty cool. Looking at the detachments here, again, there's an attacker detachment, there's a defender attachment. Again, I think this is very fluffy. It really goes with what's going on, right? So looking at the attacker detachment, 2 or 3 HQs, 2 as a minimum. Just looking at the other minimums here, 2 troop choices as a minimum and 1 heavy support as a minimum. So again, makes sense. You need the HQ to lead the assault, as well as the troops and the heavy support to bring it up, right? The defender detachment is, again, 2 to 3 HQs, troops 2 to 6, and instead of heavy support, they have fortifications, right? So one fortification is required by the defender. So you're forced to spend points on a fortification rather than just using the terrain, which I think is actually pretty cool. Again, with the stratagems here, we got 5 new stratagems, 5 new ones for the attacker, 5 new ones for the defender. Just calling out a couple of these here. So Dawn Assault, use this stratagem at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins. For the duration of the first battle round, both players must use the low visibility zone rules from Battle Zone Night Fight as described in the Battle Zone section of the Warhammer 40k Big Rule Book. So, attacker, right? I would probably use that. You get minuses to hit based off of range. It's definitely going to help me get closer if I'm deployed pretty far away. Defender, let's just call out one here. Fortified Stronghold, for example, 2 command points. Use this stratagem after you have set up a building. Whoever controls that building can add 1 to saving throws made for it for the duration of battle. Kind of cool, right? Give your building a +1 to save. So just like within the Planetary Strike, we have new missions for Stronghold Assault. So 6 missions in total. The Big Push, Last Stand, Breakthrough, Bunker Assault, as well as All-Out Attack, Crossfire. So just calling out another one here. Again, we're not going to review these in detail. You'll feel free to read the rules on these. But All-Out Attack, for example. So what's cool is that, I'm not sure if you can see it, but the deployment is a little different, right? One of them has the chevron type shape, whereas the other one has a typical Dawn of War. So the defender has a Dawn of War, the attacker has that kind of spearhead type shape. Kind of cool. So looking into this, essentially it is just waves of attackers, right? So one of the special rules for this mission is on a 5-up. So let me just read the sustained assault rule. So any of the attacker's units that are destroyed can later return to battle. At the end of each of their movement phases, the attacker rolls a dice for each of the destroyed units, adding 2 to the result if that unit has a troops battlefield roll. On a 5-up, they can immediately set that unit up again, wholly within 6 inches of the battlefield edge. So you're just getting waves of men pouring in there, right? And for troops, it's on a 3-up versus a 5-up. So pretty cool. The attacker can, at the end of any of their turns, remove any of their units from the battlefield that have a quarter or less of their starting number of models, or in the case of single model units, a quarter or less of the starting number of wounds. This unit then counts as having been destroyed for all purposes and can be returned to battle later as described above. So you can pretty much take your guy off, bring him back full health, and keep going with him. So, awesome. All right. Coming out of Stronghold Assault, they have this new idea here in the chapter approved book called linear campaigns. Essentially what this is you can run a Planetary Strike campaign, you can run a Stronghold Assault campaign, or kind of do a one of each, right? So all it is really, you're getting bonuses. You run through each of the Planetary Strike missions, all 5 of them it looks like they have listed here as an example. But what you do is you get bonuses for each mission that you win. So if an attacker has a victory, they get a bonus for winning that first game that they can then use in the second game. If the defender wins, they get a bonus that they can use in the second game as well, and so on and so forth. 1 for the second game, 1 for the third game, 1 for the fourth game. So same goes for Stronghold Assault. You're running through the 5 missions here. You're running through Breakthrough, Bunker Assault, All-Out Attack, and you're getting bonuses for each victory, right? And really for the Stronghold Assault, it's only, 5 missions here versus the 6 total. But again, there's bonuses for each the attacker and defender if they win. And then they have another one here called Planetary Invasion Campaign. So, what you can essentially do is you can have a Planetary Strike campaign followed up by a Stronghold Assault campaign, right? And so you're essentially invading that planet, and then you're busting through the strongholds. And for each of these, what's interesting is that it's a winner-take-all. So, you get these bonuses leading up to the last battle. So for Planetary Strike, for example, it's that Forlorn Hope that we talked about earlier. And if the attacker wins, they win the whole campaign, right? Whereas if the defender wins, they win the whole campaign. Same goes for Stronghold Assault. You're welcome to obviously change these rules. It's a whole point of narrative, but the bonuses are pretty cool here. All right, next we're going to jump in and look at some of the changes for the Fortifications data sheets. Honestly, I went through, I looked at these line by line. I looked at the, ballista skill, toughness, wounds, saves for each of these. And to be completely honest, they really didn't change, right? The only changes that are really within here are things like the Void Shield Generator. So this was already FAQ'd to bring down the Void Shields. So instead of a 4-up invuln, now it has a 5-up invuln, just like the FAQ did. And then instead of a 12-inch range, it's a 6-inch range. One thing to know, however, is that it doesn't degrade as the Void Shield has less wounds on it. So it's always going to be a 5-up, even if it's at 2 wounds, rather than like a 6-up within the last Void Shield. Okay. So looking at my notes here, all we really have left is to look at the Adeptus Soroitas, Deathwatch, and Space Wolves. So to be completely honest, I'm not too familiar with any of these armies, but we'll go ahead and jump into them, and I'll hope to explain it the best I can. Forgive me if I get some wording wrong or get some of the rules wrong. But for each of these factions, essentially they're giving us a warlord trait that can be used, a relic, as well as 2 stratagems, right? So at least they're giving you a taste of what the codex will hopefully be like, right? And giving you a little bit more buff rather than just working out of the index. So for Adeptus Soroitas, right, the Sisters of Battle. So Inspiring Orator as your warlord trait that you can choose. You can reroll failed morale test for friendly Adeptus Soroitas units within 6 inches of this warlord. Pretty cool. And then as your relic, you can choose the Blade of Adamantine. I think that's how you say it. But essentially, you can swap out your melee weapon. You can only swap it out if the unit has a power sword, and it gives you +2 strength, -3 AP, and does 3 damage. For the stratagems, giving you 2 stratagems, each 1 command point apiece. But essentially, the first one here, Martyrdom. So use the stratagem at the end of the phase in which Adeptus Soroitas character from your army has been slain. So again, character. Remove that unit from the battlefield, roll a d6 on a 2-up, one unit from your army with the Acts of Faith ability you can perform an Act of Faith. So this is actually really cool. So you have a character you can essentially, pile in with another unit. There's no range on this again, right? You can pile in with another unit attack, right? You can perform a shooting attack, whatever Act of Faith you have access to, you can certainly do it. The next one here, Purity of Faith. Use this stratagem with an enemy psyker. Manifest a psychic power within 24 inches of Adeptus Soroitas unit from your unit. On a d6, roll a d6. On a 4-up, the psychic power is resisted and its effects are negated. So you don't even need a psyker for this one. Pretty cool. You just need to spend a command point. Next, looking into Deathwatch. Again, looking at their one page. Again, following that same thing. Warlord trait, relic, 2 stratagems. For their warlord trait, essentially re-rolling failed wound rolls for your warlord when you attack vehicles and monsters. Again, pretty fluffier, I like it. And then for the relic, they have the Beacon of Angelus. So once per battle, at the end of any movement phases, the bearer can use the Beacon Angelus to teleport a unit to his position. So it just says a unit. It doesn't say, what type of unit that has to be. So you can teleport anything to his position, right? So when he does so, select a friendly Deathwatch infantry or biker unit that is either on the battlefield or is teleported to him. In either case, remove this unit and then set it up wholly within 6 inches of the bearer and more than 9 inches from any enemy model. So it says select a Deathwatch infantry or biker unit. So it looks like they can only be for infantry and biker units, just the way it's being read. Looks like I missed it. It doesn't say within the first sentence there. So only infantry or biker units can be teleported. Looking at their stratagems here, they have both 1 command point stratagems here. The Clavis, use this stratagem in your fight phase. Select an enemy vehicle within 1 inch of a Watchmaster from your army and roll a d6. On a 2-up, the vehicle suffers d3 mortal wounds. So pretty much spend a command point, get at least a mortal wound off of something. Pretty clutch at times. And then next we have Death to the Alien. Use this stratagem before a Deathwatch unit from your army is chosen to attack in any fight phase. Each time you make a hit roll of 6 up for a model in this unit during this phase, it can, if it is targeting a unit that does not have the Imperium, Chaos, or unaligned keyword, immediately make an extra attack. So pretty much against Xenos items, or Xenos units are able to make an extra attack. So again, those extra attacks can't generate any further attacks. Jumping into our last item here is Space Wolves. So looking at these guys here, again, following that same item of warlord traits, relics, as well as 2 stratagems. For Space Wolves, they have the Saga of the Warriorborn as their warlord trait that you can now choose. You can always, so what this reads is you can always choose your warlord to fight first in the fight phase, even if he didn't charge. So pretty much heroic intervention for him. If the enemy has units that have charged or that have a similar ability, then alternate choosing units to fight with, starting with the player whose turn is taking place. So heroic intervention with him, but you always get to fight first. So pretty cool. For their relic, they have the Krakenborn sword. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Model with a frost sword only, so you can replace a frost sword with this Krakenbone sword. Replaces bearer's frost sword and essentially gives you +1 strength, -4 AP, and 1 damage for that. But the ability of it is that you can reroll failed wound rolls. So, all right. Lastly, the 2 stratagems here. Again, 2 command points each. They are True Grit as well as Cunning of the Wolf. So True Grit. So you're able to choose a Space Wolf's infantry unit that's within 1 inch of an enemy unit. And in the phase, models in that unit can fire their auto bolt rifles, bolt guns, bolt rifles, and bolt combines as if they had the pistol 2 type. So models that do so cannot fire any other pistols in this phase. So you're pretty much turning their guns into pistols for a phase and allowing them to shoot within combat. So pretty cool stuff. Kind of the wolf, the last stratagem to be used by Space Wolves. So use the stratagem during deployment when setting up a Space Wolves infantry unit. You can set up this unit on the hunt instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phases, the unit can join the battle. Set it up as so that it is wholly within 6 inches of battlefield edge of your choice and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So deep striking Space Wolves. Obviously they have to be, you know, as this reads, they have to be within 6 inches of any battlefield edge, but pretty cool. You can get them down the field really quickly, which is, I know, something that Space Wolves have difficulty doing unless they're, you know, obviously mounted. So awesome stuff. That's it for my portion of the chapter approved review. I hope you enjoyed it. There's some pretty awesome rules within this. I'm really looking forward to doing some more campaigns, looking at the you know, Planetary Strike as well as Stronghold Assault campaigns. Really looking forward to this book. Check out our other videos if you want to look at, you know, the other factions and other reviews. Thanks for watching, guys.